Hi everyone, Robin Shea here. Welcome to day 13 of Before the Fork, the 28-day experience. And this is the evening message. So we are about halfway finished with the program. We have another day or two and we're going to hit the halfway mark. And I thought tonight would be a really great night to share with y'all how I came up with the 4 phases of transformation. We have the 6 pillars. We're very familiar with the 6 pillars. But how did I come up with working this through 4 phases? And back when my boys were little and I was going through all of my own personal evolution and discovery, I stumbled across a psychologist named Maslow, Abraham Maslow. And I studied his work from self-actualization to his learning matrix. And the learning matrix made a tremendous amount of sense to me. It's just something that really, really resonated. So I thought I would share with y'all tonight Maslow's learning matrix so that you can kind of recognize where you are in the process. We're in phase 2, but I want to take it back to his work and share with you what exactly that looks like from a psychological perspective. So we have the 4 phases of transformation as I prescribe them in Before the Fork, and they're directly related to Maslow's work. And so first we have phase 1, which I call discovery, and that is the unconscious incompetence. So that is the part of the program where you're not even aware what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And we all have, it's just a period of discovery where you're just kind of in awe of what you don't even recognize yet. So it's when you're kind of walking around going, wow, I do that? I didn't recognize I did that. So it's unconscious incompetent. So it's the child before he sees a bike. He doesn't even know a bike exists. And so he's unaware that there are these things out there called bikes. All right. So that's your unconscious incompetence. That's phase 1. That's when we're assessing our environment and getting ready to discover. So now we are actually in phase 2. And phase 2 is conscious incompetence. And that is where now we are heightenedly aware that there are many, many things about the transformation process that we do not know. So we become open to discovery. So it's the child seeing the bike and recognizing that there's this fun, awesome toy out there that they can be part of, that can take them places fast, and that they can learn to do jumps on, and they can skid out, and they can get from here to there. So it's seeing the bike and recognizing that there's this vehicle out there. So that is conscious incompetence. That is recognizing that there are things that you do not know. We spend the greatest amount of time in conscious incompetence because we're simply gathering knowledge. This is when we discover our holes and we start plugging in different tools to figure out what is going to work to fill that void. How are we going to overcome this particular difficulty? So conscious incompetence, knowing that there are things that you don't know, is a critical part, because that means that you're open. You're open for discovery. Now in phase 3, we're going to be moving into conscious competence. We're only going to be there a few days, but basically what conscious competence is, you have the tools that you discovered through phase 2, through your conscious incompetence. And in phase 3, we're realizing that we have the tools, but we still have to think about using them. We still have to be on top of the work. We still have to, oh, sorry about that, Boogie. We still have to be aware that to grab the tool, it's not automatic. So we have the tools, we built the tools through our conscious incompetence. Now in our conscious competence, we have to remember to plug those tools in. So let's take it back to the child. First, the child doesn't know there's a bike. Then the child discovers that there's a bike and discovers what they're going to need to ride the bike. And in phase 3, which is the conscious competence, that's when the child starts sitting on the bike. and starts pedaling forward and starts going through the motions, they still have to be conscientious of their balance, of the pedal speed, of getting their pant leg caught in the spokes, everything that's important to learning to ride that bike. And then finally, in the fourth phase, we have unconscious competence. And that's the child that walks out the door, grabs the bike, hops on the bike, and takes off without any thought to everything that led up to that effortless knowledge of how to ride the bike. And that's exactly what we're doing in the 4 phases. We're moving from an unawareness of what you don't even know to consciously being aware that you don't know things. And so that opens you up to absorb the information. And then we go to conscious competence, which is, I'm going to start trying. I'm going to start using the tools. I'm going to start all of the things that have led up to this 3rd phase. I'm going to start plugging in and see what sticks. And finally, in unconscious competence, at the very end of the 28 days, we're going to be in unconscious competence, and we're going to see what tools stuck, what actually is working, what tools are the best tools that you can have for any said problem that you may arise. Now, again, let's take it back to the child, and let's think about the child. Hi, everyone. Let's think about the child getting on the bike. So they've achieved a level of unconscious competence. So they're in level 4, but that still doesn't mean that they're ready to take jumps or they're ready to go down a single track trail. It just means that they've mastered the basics. They are unconsciously competent of the basics. They don't have to think about the basics anymore. So the first set of 4 phases that you're going to go through, by the end of this, you're going to have a set of skills that doesn't necessarily mean you're a master by any stretch, but what it does mean is that you have the groundwork and you've moved through those 4 phases as Maslow prescribes in any learning matrix. So you have gone through the 4 phases, you have some unconscious competence behind you, meaning that you've got some skills by the end of the 28 days together that you don't really have to think about. They have made their way into your subconscious very, very similarly to that child jumping on the bike finally after their learning period and being able to take off. It doesn't make them a master, but it does make them competent in areas that they no longer have to think about. So Kelly and I were talking tonight about the message, and she said, you know, do they know where they're going? Do they know what the other phases hold in store for them? And I thought, you know, I've never shared with anyone, even in the book, I didn't outline Maslow's contribution to my work. And it was learning his learning matrix that made the 4 phases make so much sense to me, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're allowing ourselves, I'm so sorry, Boogie. She's kind of going nuts. Sorry about that. It made sense to me. I thought, you know, I've never shared that before, and I think that would be very helpful for them to know that the 4 phases are deeply rooted in histories. I think Maslow came up with the learning matrix in the 40s or 50s. I'm going to shut this door. And so I thought that would be very helpful for y'all to know that it's not me willy-nilly just, you know, grabbing 4 phases because it's catchy. There really is a science behind the 4 phases, and it's allowing yourself to move through all 4 of those phases. Now, when a teacher applies Maslow's principles to the classroom, it's no different. If a teacher takes a child from the first level, the first, you know, part of Maslow's learning, which is unconscious incompetence, and jumps them up to the 3rd level, which is conscious competence, then they have missed that very, very critical learning phase of conscious incompetence. And you can't miss that. That is an integral part of deeply rooting these new habits, these new thought patterns into place. You know, training your mind. We're doing a lot of training. We're training our bodies. We're training our mind, our thought patterns. We are really rewiring, unwiring, rewiring our entire nervous system and how we relate to food and how we relate to our thought patterns. So you can't take that very, very casually. You have to allow yourself to move through those 4 phases. So if you want to look into any of Maslow's research, any of he has the hierarchy of being, he has the learning matrix. He was a tremendous contributor to the whole foundation of our psychological evolution, at least as we know it today. And his work is world renowned, and he was a major contributor to just taking ideas that, almost like Sir Isaac Newton and gravity. There are ideas there that seem common sense, but it's not until you articulate them and break them down into what they actually are. And the learning matrix is tremendously important. And phase 2, which is where we are right now, is probably by far the most important. If you deny phase 2, then the evolution into phase 3 and 4 will reflect what you denied in phase 2. So again, this is where we are trying tools. We discover the holes. We're plugging all kinds of different tools into the hole to figure out what works best for us in our lives. And then we're chronicling that tool, and we're saying that worked in this situation for me. And so that is your tool that goes in your unique toolbox. Everyone's toolbox has a unique set of tools based on so many of your predispositions, your attitude, your environment, your home environment, your social environment. So your tools are very, very unique to you. So phase 2 cannot be minimized. And it's up to you to build your own toolbox. That's what someone cannot help you with. We can throw ideas at you all day long. What worked for me, what worked for this one. But at the end of the day, it's you trying different tools out to fit in different circumstances that is going to ultimately lead to your success and your full actualization that happens in the final phase of the program. So anyway, that's what I thought I would share with y'all tonight. Maslow was a major contributor to the phase evolution of Before the Fork, and I respect his work tremendously. So do a little bit of research on Maslow if that interests you, and know that what I'm teaching here is rooted deeply in psychological study and has been proven time and time and time again. And I think if you start to look at life in the 4 phases of evolution, many things will make much more sense to you. Not one step is more important than the other. They're all incredibly necessary. So don't deny yourself any of the steps. And in phase 4, we will revisit this, and you will see what has actually become unconscious competence, things that you no longer have to think about. They're just part of who you are now. So you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining me. There's a bunch of y'all out there. We have Deborah, we have Bernadette, we have Dina, Melissa, Marjorie. Hi to all of y'all. I hope you had a super fantastic day. And I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning. Talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye now.